One of my favorite things about every album is its album cover. It's probably the first thing you notice about an album, and the thing you'll be seeing the most when hearing an album. Although not every album cover achieves to do the same thing, I still do value when artists go out of their way to make a good album cover. Personally, my favorite type of album cover is the one that visualizes the sound. And as we go, I'll explain a little bit more of what I mean. Keep in mind, this is just my favorites. This isn't necessarily an all-time list or the most iconic or anything, so if I miss out, I miss out. Let's start, like always, what it always revolves around. Let's go to Kid Cudi and let's talk about Man in the Moon real quick. So obviously I've talked about this before on my channel, and for those asking, yes, I will cover Man in the Moon 3 eventually. I just gotta wait for the LUTs to come out, the music videos and all that. So stay tuned, it will come out, just hold on a minute. When I think about Man in the Moon 1, Man in the Moon 2, and Man in the Moon 3, I think that each cover represents what the album is about. Like when you look at Man in the Moon 1, it's colorful, you get the orange and purple, and it's a literal man on the moon. And it just fits the sound of the album, which is kind of like this out of world experience, really. And depending on the time of year, I actually prefer the bonus edition because it does look like the motherboard of a computer, but it's his brain at the same time. Like, it just looks so cool, and the detail it looks visually pleasing. When you go to Man in the Moon 2, although it doesn't look visually pleasing with the colors, it makes sense because this is a darker album and the subject material is darker as well. And you know, the Mr. Radiator character is perfectly represented in the album cover. But when you go to Man in the Moon 3, all of a sudden you get the same colorful explosion that you had in Man in the Moon 1, the same kind of personal feel, and just this beautiful artwork. Seriously, look at it. I knew I was gonna like Man in the Moon 3 when I saw the cover. I'm not gonna lie. And to me, Man in the Moon 3 does sound like what Man in the Moon 1 would have been if it came out in 2020. So the album cover kind of being this remake of the first one, but to a whole nother level, kind of makes sense. You also got this like little guy right there. I think he's supposed to be the Mr. Radiator character, so you tie in the whole trilogy into one album cover, and it's just great. Moving on to a whole different artist, let's look at Nas, and let's look at Illmatic specifically. I like the original one, and the one that was released for the 20-year anniversary, but I prefer the original one. At this time, Nas is considered one of the best rappers out, and he only has like 2 songs out and 1 verse. So that's just how special Nas was. I think it's one of those album covers that fit the sound of the album, as well as it's just iconic. It is a good representation of what hip hop is, and you got the projects in the back and a baby just symbolizing him growing up poor or in the projects, or even both. I made a bit of research on the Nas cover as I'm editing because I thought it was interesting where they got the idea from. And apparently the original cover for Illmatic was Nas putting Jesus in a headlock, which is weird because now we know him as God's son. That might have been an interesting father-son dynamic. Also, what the album is meant to represent is that at the age of 7, Nas was starting to notice what was happening around him as it relates to gun violence and drugs and all of these other things. I thought those were interesting stories to bring up. I like the second one as well. It's more visually interesting with the colors and all that's going on there. And if you look at the 2 X's, it symbolizes the 20-year anniversary as well. Sticking with New York rappers from the 90s, I want to talk about Jay-Z album covers. Let's start with Reasonable Doubt. This is an album where everything fits like a jigsaw puzzle when it comes to the skits, the lyrical content, the instrumentation, and even the album cover. I believe that everything fits together, and it's one of the reasons why Reasonable Doubt is remembered so fondly. I like the black and white feel to it. I even like the picture itself. There's an ambulance in the back. I'm not sure if the mic is gonna pick it up, but I hope the mic picked that up. So like I was saying, after the Blueprint 3, Hov doesn't really show his face in album covers anymore, but I do think he has one solid album cover after it, and it's the 444 one. Since 444 is an album about maturity, something about this album cover just being basic, being plain, makes it fit in more than it should. Or more than it would for anybody else. It just lets you know everything you need to know going into this album. And I wonder if it's like the color scheme that is making me think it's mature. I'm not really sure. Now, if you allow me to go into more modern artists, I'll point to Chance the Rapper. I know some people like the Big Day cover, but I don't really like it. I don't like the album either, but that's the majority of people. I do like Acid Rap though. The Acid Rap cover is one of my favorites because of the colors in it, and I also like the backstory of this being inspired from a fan picture. Like, look at that, such perfect lighting with the colors and all of that. That's why I like Acid Rap. I think it might be because of the album cover more than the actual songs. It sounds crazy, but they complement each other. Coloring book is also pretty dope. I like that he's wearing his Chance 3 hat, because this was his third album, and it made the hat look more iconic just by being on the album. And I had to cop the hat. I'm not gonna lie, I copped it in pink. And I also like the colors in it, you know? It's just a clean album cover. There's not much else to it. And I guess the last artist I'll talk about for today is Kanye West. If there's someone that cares about his album covers, it's probably Kanye West. I will talk more about Kanye albums in future videos, but for now I just want to talk about the Graduation album cover. So, funny story about Kanye West, the album cover, and myself. The first Kanye West song that I remember hearing is Good Morning, and it's because of the Graduation bear. I thought it was like a cartoon thing going on, and there was never a cartoon. I mean, apparently there's going to be a cartoon with kids see ghosts, so 6-year-old me is happy. On top of just the little story, I do like the album cover itself. I love that this caps off kind of the unofficial trilogy that is Kanye's first 3 albums with the teddy bear and such. On top of that, the colors of it are just awesome, man. So that's why it's one of my favorite albums. When you combine the story that I have with it, the design of it, and all of the context around the Graduation album, it just turns into one of your favorites. Or at least for me it does. Now, this is the first time I do a video like this, and it has been tough to edit, believe it or not, because I didn't have a format for it. So I will return to this when I think of a better way to format it, because this should not be a 2-week video. Like the video, you know, comment, all that good stuff. And Jay Dilla, take us out, man.